Okay, well, hi, everybody. And it's good to be back. There have been some delays, and we'll, keep going as best we can. It's been actually, the conference has intervened since we have worked on the Glamour project. And we are, well, I'll tell you where we are in a minute, but, just to keep the continuity going, one of the last things we read together from Glamour, a World Problem, was that the revelations of science, when basic and fundamental, are as divine as those of religion, but both have been prostituted to meet human demand. Quite a number of the scientists don't even come from our particular Earth scheme. They're brought in from Vulcan. They're brought in from Mercury, and they have not developed this, even the second petal of the egoic lotus, which is a love knowledge petal. And they are here for that purpose. And when that development does occur, there will not be the misuse of those scientific powers. And science will not be prostituted to meet human demand or desire, let us say. But he does have many good things to say about science. Now, remember, we're still working with the intuitive technique, the technique of the presence. Maybe we'll see how far we get today. Just follow the weekly schedule, mostly for the time being, until my stamina improves. We'll be working in the evening here in Europe, which is good for the United States, but maybe not so good for those in Vietnam and in certain places in Australia. I think it's possible that the people in New Zealand will be able to more easily tune in. But DK says here, just making a little segue, that the era is close at hand when science will bend every effort to heal humanity's sores. Interesting word, isn't it? He didn't say illnesses, but this is coming from friction and from disharmony. So science will bend every effort to heal humanity's sores and build a better and happier world. One of the very first things of the scientific seed group, believe it or not, will be to study the whole phenomenon of survival of the death process, or the survival of the consciousness when the death process occurs. And also that will lead into a study of reincarnation. When humanity can prove and can finally accept in an intelligent manner what reincarnation is, we're going to see a much more ethical world, one in which people know that they are truly building for the future, and that the bed they make is the bed they lie in. So they create the conditions which will meet them again and again until they create something that is more in line with the divine plan. So let's see where we are here. We are, this is program 178, I do believe. And it shouldn't be, it should be the 4th of June. And it's reading 115, and we're basically beginning on page 188. And I just want to see who's all here. Yeah, well, okay, I'm not going to read everybody's name, but it's really nice to see you. And like I said, if any of these programs occur at a time which is absolutely too inconvenient for you, you can pick them up on Makara after BL posts them. And some of them are also posted by Harold under the advisement of Joe on our YouTube channel. So first we read, and then we're going to have a meditation on obsessive emotion, the glamour of. Of course, you know, all these glamours involve, to a certain extent, accompanying illusion. And obsessive emotion is no different. I mean, we are seeing that the mind has to be used correctly. Otherwise, we've run down the rabbit hole into wonderland, which has no connection with reality. But we'll deal with that when we work together on that meditation. He says here, the revelations of science, though focused often through one man or woman, you know, they are the star of the show, and we sometimes forget the team that is in back of them, are more specifically the result of group endeavor and of a trained group activity than are the revelations of religion, so-called, meaning some of these revelations of religion may not be revelations at all and may be part of the dogmatism and the sort of iron-clad beliefs that hold people in prison. But it's interesting that he looks at science as closer to the center of things, closer to the center of the revelations of the plan. Maybe he'll explain that. So number one, through the effort, aspiration, let's see, what is it here? Revelation comes in two ways, okay. Through the effort, aspiration, and achievement of one man, one human being, who is so close to the hierarchy and so imbued with conscious divinity that he can receive the message direct from the central divine source. Maybe these are a little bit rarer types of revelations. The coming through really the true intuitive. Let's see here. Don't want to spend too much time doing this, but okay. He can receive the message direct from the central divine source. He has joined the ranks of the great intuitives. Now, some of us may have intuitions, but we're not yet the great intuitives that are really plugged into the Buddhic plane, and especially to the fourth level of the Buddhic plane, which is the subplane on which intuition particularly is demonstrating. He has joined the ranks of the great intuitives and works freely in the world of divine ideas. Now, most of us work with thoughts. And not necessarily with ideas, which are actually more like living beings, which give shape and form to shapeless matter. So it takes the building of the Antakarana, really, to actually begin to work with ideas. And our first stop along the way is to be able to work with the abstract mind, which is the first target of Antakarana building. Okay, he knows his mission clearly. Well, we can ask ourselves, for how many of us is this really true? Clearly true, demonstrably true. He knows his mission clearly. And may it be the case for more and more of us that if we question ourselves, we know what we are really here to do as individuals, and we know the group or groups that we must affiliate with to do that. He chooses his sphere of activity with deliberation. And notice, it's not just the master coming and saying, do this. The great intuitive chooses himself his sphere of activity with careful thought, deliberation, and isolates the truth or truths which he deems appropriate to the need of the time. So the intuitive works not for himself alone, and not even just for the welfare of his group, but he thinks in larger terms of humanity. I'm sorry, I'm noticing that the light coming into the temple here is doing strange things with this image, but okay, I'll just have to leave it be. He comes forth as a messenger of the Most High. Now, who is the Most High? That particular title is given to Sanat Kumara. He is called the Most High. Of course, he's not really the Most High, but in terms of planetary manifestation and the incarnation of the solar logos, planetary logos, he is the Most High. He comes forth as a messenger of the Most High, leads a dramatic and arresting life of service. We don't have to search for that in our lives. It's enough if we serve, and the drama and the attention getting will occur on their own, the more skillfully we serve. But we're not looking to stand out among human beings and be noticed. If we were, it would simply be an indication of a lower form of egotism, and we would have our eyes upon the personal self. But anyway, this kind of intuitive leads a dramatic and arresting life of service and symbolizes in his life events certain basic truths which have already been revealed, but which he pictorially reenacts. Well, you know, when you think about this, it's obvious that Christ, Jesus, Buddha, and others have pictorially reenacted a great and fundamental doctrines which guide humanity in its elevation. And there are others, maybe whose life was not so outstanding, but these are some of the outstanding ones, and there are others. He epitomizes in himself the revelations of the past. Now, you know, Christ was always talking about the fulfillment of the law, and the laws emerged in the past. Maybe Moses was another one, the lawgiver, as he is called in chapter 10 of the Rays and the Initiations. He epitomizes in himself then the revelations of the past, and to them adds his own contribution of the new revelation, which it is his specific function to present to the world. So, you know, in the case of the Christ, we can say Christ's 11th commandment. Oh, that's not exactly a TH, is it? Let's see if I can get that correct. Yep. That commandment that you love one another as I have loved you. So he fulfilled the law always as it was given in the Hebrew presentation of the time, and basically as was codified from an earlier solar system, but he added to it the law of love. So every once in a while, something outstanding occurs. And one of these great beings emerges. But there are other ways too that revelation comes. So number 2, through the effort of a group of seekers. such as scientific investigators in every country. We see a lot of that going on right now. Do we have any idea of these hundreds, maybe thousands, who are working behind the scenes, unknown, unsung, to discover the ways of this mysterious COVID-19? These one discovery after another is being made by the group. So the scientific investigators, who together are searching for light on the problems of manifestation, or for some means to alleviate human suffering, thus a revelation comes. So we will emphasize that. 1, 2, 3. The effort of such a group often, now, this is important. It's not the great intuitive, but it makes of someone a very capable intuitive. The effort of such a group often lifts upon its wings of its unrealized aspiration some one man, some one human being, of course, who can then penetrate into the world of divine ideas and there find the longed for cure or key. And thus he intuitively discovers a long sought secret. You can think of Jonas Salk in relation to the polio vaccine, but really the whole team behind him, really. You can think of Einstein, all of the work that was being done in the Fifth Ray Ashram to lift him into that realm of superlative intuition. There are many ways along many ray lines where the group working together creates the atmosphere in which one of the group members who has a particularly perspicacious penetration can be lifted into the realm of ideation, into the realm of intuition. So the discovery, when of the first rank, because there are all kinds of discoveries we might make, this type of discovery is as much a revelation as the truths presented by the world teachers. And here, who is to say that the statement that God is love, a very Christic statement, is of more value than the statement that all is energy, coming from such revealers as Einstein and Newton and maybe Hawking, but definitely along a different ray line. We have to understand something about the equality of the rays. We cannot do without any one of them. Now, in this particular fifth second solar system, which is our second major solar system, the revelation that God is love is paramount, and the great synthetic ray is the indigo ray. So everything is synthesized on that ray at this time, but it will not be so in the next solar system, and it was not so in the previous major solar system, both of which derive their character, especially from the personality ray that the solar logos was using to present that solar system. The route which the revelation then follows is the same in both cases. You know, whether it's coming from a great and acknowledged world teacher or whether it's coming from someone who is lifted up by the group effort into the stage of penetration, of some intuitive realization of the first rank. But this is interesting here. The route which the revelation then follows is the same in both cases. And illusion overtakes both forms of revelation. The Tibetan commented that Christ would hardly recognize his simple teaching in all the ritualism and mummery and elaborate church presentations which have come to be, because the simplicity has been killed out of it, so to speak, and all of these overlays of forms and methods so dear to humanity have been kind of encrusted upon it. So illusion, in both cases, whether it's from a great teacher or whether it's from someone who has been uplifted, illusion overtakes both. But here is a point upon which I would ask you to reflect. And this maybe is the point that he's trying to tell us in regarding this pending age of science in which the fifth ray will be so important, namely the age of Aquarius, and such religion as there is will be a scientific religion. And we're already beginning with that, with our work on the cycles and when we hold full moons and new moons and other days of cyclic importance. Already we're preparing. So here is the point upon which I would ask you to reflect. There is a little less, he's not going with an entire accolade here. There is a little less illusion gathered around the revelations of science than has gathered around the revelations of what humanity calls the more definitely spiritual truths. Well, okay, some of those spiritual truths have been around a long time, maybe 2,000 or 2,500 years, and they've had plenty of time to become encrusted by illusion. One reason lies in the fact that the last great spiritual revelation given by the Christ, he's saying the same thing here, was given 2,000 years ago. And the development of man's mind and his responsiveness to truth has grown greatly since that time. So, we don't, the individuals with whom the Christ surrounded himself, the disciples, his disciples, were of a lower initiatory level than will be the individuals with whom he plans to reappear, namely his own group, the masters of the wisdom. So in 2000 years, a lot can settle upon the simple truths presented by the Christ. Again, the revelations of science are largely the result of group tension. I'm thinking of Aquarius, I'm thinking of the planet of occult mind, Uranus, and the archetypes that it rules, and just the scientific method of verifying assertions and replicating the reported results of assertions. Maybe that was not so easy to do relative to the spiritual truths revealed long ago. So the revelations of science are largely the result of group tension. And as he said, eventually focused in one intuitive recipient, and the revelation is thereby protected. Why protected? And we might say protected because of the group. And all of the debate and attempts at repeating the reported results. Today, as humanity awaits the revelation which will embody the thoughts and dreams and constructive goal of the new age, it's kind of interesting. The goal, it's a singular word, and it involves, well, basically liberty, equality, and fraternity, but it ends with Venus in an age of brotherly love. And maybe that's what the final constructive goal is. Meanwhile, we have to pass through a period of great difficulty under Saturn and a period of highly developed Manus under Mercury. So humanity is awaiting that revelation, and while it is doing so, the demand comes for the first time from a large group of, notice this, intuitively inclined people. Intuitively inclined. This is not necessarily a great intuitive, but the inclination is there. And DK does clarify. I said not intuitives, brother of old. So they're inclined towards becoming intuitives. Are we? Are we in our building of the Antikarana and the practicing of DK's methods? Are we inclined towards becoming intuitives? How do we know that this may be the case? I would say, the more glamour and illusion we manage to negate, the clearer will become the possible influence of intuition upon us. Anyway, this group of intuitively inclined people, let us number ourselves among them, hopefully it will be so, is now so large, and its focus is now so real, and its demand so loud that it is succeeding in focusing the massed intent of the people. So there is intuitive inclination, which is strong, loud, and it mobilizes the will, or in this case, as it's called, the intent of more and more people who may be, as he says, they may be more inclined to use the mind, but eventually will value the intuition. Therefore, whatever revelation may emerge in the immediate future will be, now this is important because revelations undergo that incrustification, if I can call it that. Whatever revelation may emerge in the future will be better, quote, protected by the spirit of understanding than any previous one. I think that's somehow very important in terms of the truth value of what comes forth for humanity to consider. The group has a method of protecting. There may be, brilliant individuals who are quite sure of what they have discovered, but the group sustains such an individual, and the group checks the assertions of the intuitive. And in this checking, we have this going on right now in television and media. I don't remember a time when there was such an emphasis upon fact checking. And quite frequently, what the fact checker has discovered is in contradistinction to what is asserted. And that at least can help enlighten us about false or misguided assertions. So anyway, whatever revelation will be better protected by the spirit of understanding. This is the significance of the words of the New Testament, every eye shall see him. How so? How so? Humanity as a whole will recognize the revealing one. And this was, or will be, the reappearing Christ. So then if humanity recognizes him, then what? In past ages, the messenger from on high was only recognized by and known to a mere handful of men. And it took decades and sometimes centuries for his message to penetrate into the hearts of humanity. Well, what's it called? A presented attribute, as discussed in esoteric psychology too, love, wisdom, synthesis. So Christ presented the attribute of love, and it's presented. It is not yet an absorbed attribute. Let's see how much more we have here. A little bit. I would like to get to the next section, if I can. So it took a long time, and few were the recipients of what the one from on high had to say. That will not be the case now. Every eye will see him, and there will be protection in that as well. The stress of the times also, and the development of the sense of proportion, plus an enforced return to simplicity of living, it rather makes you think that this is something that is going to come upon us the more Saturn, the ruler of the first decade of Aquarius, comes into power, and enforced simplicity of living. Hardly the case now. Plus an enforced return to simplicity of living and requirements may save the coming revelation from too swift and quick a submergence in the fire of the great illusion. So look at each one of these conditions and see how it is that they may prevent the elusification. Probably there is no such word, but the elusification of a deep truth. The stress of the times, because in stressful times you have to go for the essence, and the development of a sense of proportion, so important in the development of harmlessness and preventing us from going to extremes. Right now, people are rushing to extremes with a very potentially rather dire results, and that enforced return to simplicity, the essence of things, and the simplicity of our requirements. All these things maybe don't look particularly pleasant, especially stress and having many things taken away from us through force to return to simplicity, but it can perhaps prevent the illusion that happens so quickly. It will be apparent to you from the above that the mode of handling world affairs, states of consciousness and conditions in the three worlds is one in which the disciple and initiate work from above downwards. That is the occult method, after all, isn't it? It is the occult method, to work from above to below. The method is in reality a repetition of the involutionary arc, in which, like the Creator, well, let's just say the planetary logos in this case. And from a vantage point of exterior direction, energy, force, and forces are directed into the world of phenomena and produce definite effects upon the substance of the three planes. So our question is, how successfully do we work from the realm of the soul above into the realm of the 18 lower subplanes, the three lower worlds? So we are mirroring our planetary creator. This is a point which should be most carefully remembered. And he comes back to our theme. It is for this reason that the technique of the presence, the first technique, but involving the highest aspect of ourselves, really, finally, the monad, must always be employed prior to all other techniques. And he does offer it first. In just a little while, he'll offer the technique that we habitually use right now, the technique of light. So this technique of the presence, it establishes contact with the directing spiritual agent, whether, in the triad or the monad, some high point of tension, and enables the disciple to assume the attitude of the detached observer and an agent of the plan. Now, when we work with the evening review and so much in the arcane school papers, we are asked to assume the attitude of the observer. Little do we realize that if we do that correctly, it elevates our point of tension into direct contact with a directing spiritual agent. When this technique is correctly followed, it brings the intuition into play. The intuition is found particularly in the triad, and the world of meaning, let's say, found within the world of the soul, the world of meaning lying behind the world of phenomena, stands revealed, thereby dispelling illusion. So from the world of meaning, and also with the help of the intuition, illusion is dispelled. Truth, as it is seen and known. Well, few of us can lay claim to that type of perception. Maybe occasionally it is so. Forms in the outer world of phenomena, outer from the angle of the soul, and therefore encompassing the three worlds of our familiar daily living, are seen to be but symbols of an inward and spiritual reality. Now, so many of us are identified with this world of phenomena, this world of forms. And we can't extricate ourselves. But with persistence, with using the Antakarana technique, with employing the triangle, which the Antakarana essentially is, we will find the way to recognize that the outer life is simply symbolic of inner states of being. And then we will be able to achieve what has been called spiritual reading. Spiritual reading. And that's basically able to look at any form or phenomenon and understand the deep spiritual roots behind it. Maybe it's in a way an aspect of spiritual discernment. Okay, friends, well, it's been a while, and I wanted to get as far as I could, and I set this up for our next meeting, whenever that is. It will be on the weekly schedules, and make sure that if you have the monthly schedules, that it's the new one. That's all I can say. Like I say, we're not going to be doing so many morning programs right now, but maybe, you know, a couple in the evening. And it'll be convenient for some and not so convenient for others, but okay. It's the best I can do at the moment. And we're beginning on page 190. Next time it'll be program 179. It will be in June, and it will be
Michael.
Yes.
Okay, I'm looking at what I hope is the latest schedule, and it says that the next time we meet will be on Friday, the 18th of June.
Okay, well, that's not too bad. It is June, and as long as it doesn't say AM, because that's not possible right now.
Yeah, it says PM.
Yeah, that's good. Very good. Okay, thanks, PL. Well, now maybe you've been taking some notes, or maybe there are some things that you would like to discuss in relation to what we have read. And this would be the time to offer that, or whatever else you may want to say, you know, regarding the field of occultism. But it's good if it's on the subject, but at the same time, when you offer something from occultism, it will lead to every other thing. So it's a great sphere of knowledge, and we can start anywhere and end up at anywhere else. Are there any thoughts or statements that you would like to make before we have our meditation on emotional obsession? And I really want to emphasize, you know, that as I go over these things, try to keep some notes which indicate for you points of interest, because, you know, it's difficult to gather it all together at the very end, and it's easier if you make some running notes as you go along. Is there anything there, BL?
Yes, we have a hand up. Go ahead, please, Olivia.
Just a minute.
Hi.
Okay, hi. It's great to be with everyone again, and thank you, Michael. We're talking about intuition, and oh my gosh, it seems like right now for so many people, it's a faraway thing because we can't even agree on what is a fact. And so
Yes,
when we
yes,
can't do that in a very concrete minded way, it shows we've got a long way to go. But it really is a problem now that is just seen all over the world, where people cannot agree on basic facts. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We're a long way from that type of agreement, and obviously our disagreements are being fostered by our desire for power, particularly for control, for some ideal. We're allowing our minds to be biased, and especially, well, we'll be dealing with that in our meditation. But it's especially the case for certain people who do not have in their minds the value of democracy, and who really would choose power over the voice of the people. This is a very, very heavy glamour. It is a rabbit hole, as they say, and it is untethered to reality. Now, if we can't agree on facts, well, what was it said? You're entitled to your own opinions, but not to your own facts. And, it was introduced a few years ago by one of the representatives of the White House group, alternative facts.
Right.
That kind of rubric was given. And you can really tell that the individual who said that had not thought it through. It's just like offering an alternative reality and expecting people to buy into it. And of course they do, if it reinforces their desires. So we have, I'm just grateful for some of the fact checkers who seem to be quite honest people, and they come up with convincing statements. And but the trouble is, of course, when you passionately believe something, you may have an aversion to accepting facts, even though the case made for the facts is powerful. So we are in a difficulty right now concerning the balance of people's mental faculties and the way desire affects those faculties. It's a very dangerous situation. And we have our work cut out for us, for sure. For the next year, the next 2 or 3 years, we have our work cut out for us.
Right. Thank you. And, our work is so important because clearing the astral plane is just key, and the mental plane too. So, so we can get to a starting point of at least shared facts that we
Yeah, even that. Even that. Oh, when I don't want to deviate here, but I'm going to. When I heard that the insurrection was just a bunch of nice citizens, very patriotic, visiting our capital,
Yeah.
it was to me a jaw dropper.
Mhm.
People are killed, people are beaten, people are wounded. There's a brawl,
Mhm.
they're just your average sightseer wandering through the Capitol,
Yeah.
you know, acting
Mhm.
in an inexcusable manner. But okay, uh, there's an old saying in the Bible, none are so blind as those who will not see, refuse to see. And we're dealing with it now. We'll get into it. Yep.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you, Livy.
Okay, we have a number of comments. Anne says, it occurs to me that the pandemic forced a simplicity of living with the lockdowns instituted around the world. And then Heike wrote back to Anne and said, I think that's true for some people, but on the other hand, online buying boomed. So I think it was more an opportunity than forcing. There was still the choice.
Okay, let me just check this last part. Oh yeah, online buying. Yes. It was more an well, you know, Saturn is interesting. It's a planet which seems to enforce isolation of a nature, and it demands introspection. You're forced back on yourself. You're more alone than you have been. You're not able to give in to total mindless, light-minded, Moria's term, frivolity. And every once in a while, the people who never would think about what's happening to them are forced to think on their own. So I do believe that it is true that the pandemic has forced issues that are good for humanity and also issues that are very challenging. And, you know, people will have to, it's not over yet, you know, it's just not. We are in our summer liberation for all types of flu and severe, what's it called, acute respiratory syndromes. The summer is a better time. People are not confined where they can pick it up so quickly. But we're nowhere near eradicating this, and it may be with us yet for a long time. So we'll see what the final outcome will be. I personally think that this is that epidemic, worldwide epidemic, that was discussed that Sanat Kumara might bring. And it will have to have a purpose. Many people have speculated on the moral value, the kinds of behaviors that are intended to be instituted by these very, very difficult situations. We have to remember the great invocation number 2, that light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. And we are into also the death aspect, the grief aspect, and we're into the realization that yes, we are our brother's keeper. Am I my brother's keeper? Said Cain when, after he had killed Abel, you know, he was questioned by the divine authority. Yes, we are our brother's keeper, and the welfare of our brother is our responsibility too. And it gets into the whole idea of adolescent rebellion versus care for the welfare of others. So we haven't seen the end of it yet, Heike. It's the final outcome is going to be with us for a while. Okay, what else?
All right, and then Anna says prana is our living energy, but we can also magnetize spiritual energy via consciousness, thus develop intuition, expand horizontally through faith, and also upward through motion to the higher mind, charging ourselves electrically.
Okay, well, this seems correct to me. And the more, this is the whole question about our immunity. The degree of our immunity to the attack of some of these diseases. Once DK said that in the future, he hopes it will be possible for humanity in general to develop the kind of exuberant vitality possessed, and then he said, by the South Sea Islanders. I guess, at the time anyway, it was a more natural life, and there was a great deal of vitality coursing through the etheric body of these people. Now, the question is, how much of this can we develop? During the Aquarian age, a lot of concentration will be given under Aquarius and Gemini to the development of exuberant vitality, which will be a great protection. So, we still have to come to that realization that the bioelectric body is real, and it can be brought into a condition of great resilience. Most of us are not there yet. DK looked at his group and he says, well, I could wish you were younger, and I could wish you were, what did he say, more courageous. But the younger part was all about being more vital, more exuberant. And that will come with the Aquarian age, I do believe. Yeah, okay.
And then Lori says in Raisin Initiation, page 600, it reads, the masters are also subject to illusion, but they are great and basic illusions governing life within the hierarchy. Can you help us understand this type of illusion?
I'm not sure. Every cosmic plane, especially the cosmic physical plane, which is a plane of cosmic manifestation, naturally carries its own distortions of the greatest truths that can be found in the universe. So it's a type of illusion that is illusion when compared to what is seen from the cosmic mental plane, the cosmic Buddhic plane, along the way of higher evolution. I mean, how can we even imagine what types of perspective we will have when the ways of higher evolution lead to those planes? I think there's even one path that will lead to the cosmic atmic plane. Now, they would be so illusion-free that we could compare, let's say, the illumined mind of the man to the dense physical body and the brain consciousness. And that would be a kind of a comparison to the cosmic illusions, the high perspective of the cosmic spiritual triads when compared to the cosmic physical plane. So, I don't think there's, I certainly can't get specific about it, but I can say that identification will be the key to banishing those illusions. And with what will we identify? What did the Buddha identify as when he achieved the sixth initiation and the cosmic touch of the cosmic mental plane? What did the Christ identify as, even on the cosmic astral plane, the plane of pure love? Then the lesser types of love would look relatively illusory. I would say that illusion, in a universal sense, will be eliminated once we have retracted along the line of monadic emanation and once again realize ourselves to be the universal logos. We are nothing but that, and even that is just a finite partiality compared to what goes on above and beyond any universe. So, just words, but let's just say that as our power of identification gets deeper and wider and more inclusive, then the boundaries that exist on the cosmic physical plane will appear to be illusions. Okay.
Okay, and then Michael says, I think something to ponder on as we move forward is that as human beings, we are all glamored. The exploitation of that glamour is used to subject humanity to further illusions, which thereby reinforce glamour. Self-reflection on all sides of all topics and the ability to release an absolute belief is one cure for the continuation of this loop of suffering. While many are still fixated on the right and the wrong, there is a much higher turn of the spiral we likely should be involved in, so we do not subvert the divine plan as we have done so before.
Okay, those are good words, and I believe they have merit. There is a loop. Glamour reinforcing illusion, illusion reinforcing glamour. It's this kind of a vicious circle, and it all results in chaos on the etheric and physical plane. And I would just say that if beyond our words, we can actually know what it is to center our consciousness within what we call the soul on the higher mental plane, and if we can enter the world of the triad, wherein the consciousness of the masters is focused, then I think we'll have a much clearer idea of the areas that we need to focus within, a much clearer idea as to what really is illusion. It's such, and glamorous. They are so sticky, so habitual, that we don't even know when we've pulled out of them. But we will know when we actually can focus within those higher points of tension. And that is what we have to achieve. Even a little every day, even a little bit. Otherwise we will remain in this vicious circle, it will look habitual, it will look familiar, it will appear as our world. We really have to detach from it and enter higher points of tension. Thank you, Michael. That
That's
looks like
all I see right now.
that's a good thing. Because I'd like to have us do our meditation. Why do I choose emotional obsession? Well, you know, there is a movement in the world to autocracy and the attempt to create authoritarian forms of government and to deny the people of humanity their right to have their voice, their say, and to live under a fair and more equitable system where they are not dictated to by power-hungry, power-mad individuals. Now that's been observing, re-emerging. You probably have observed that the people who are deeply involved in the distortions of QAnon and such conspiracy theories expect the soundly, roundly defeated former president to be reinstated as president after enough cheating goes on in various types of recounts in important states. This is, of course, American issue, but it extends widely. And the former guy, as they say, is so unhinged to reality that he is telling people that they try to cover it up, of course, but you know, that he is going to be reinstated as president in August. This is a preposterous proposal, but he seems to believe it, and so do many of his followers. And they, these followers are every bit as capable of violence as they were on January the 6th, and maybe more so. Discussion of coups to overthrow the government, to overthrow the present presidency are spoken and whispered and given credence by violent groups. Those who really look into it find that it is very dangerous, even for the violence it could promote, and even because, I mean, even though there is no mechanism to reinstate such a former person who has lost an election. But the obsession is there. It is an emotional obsession of a man who cannot picture himself as losing anything. The worst sin is to be a loser. And it is a constant emotional urge, a constant desire, fed, as Michael was saying, fed by illusion. There's a loop there, illusion and the emotional obsession. We have not seen the end of it. And in the summer, as the time comes closer for the so-called reinstatement of this badly beaten individual, the potential for violence will grow. So that's our focus, the emotional obsession which drives such an individual. He just can't let go of the loss and insists emotionally. And after 50 or 60 court trials, court reviews that threw out all of the arguments, cannot let go. This is fascism. This is dictatorship. This is violence. And all because of the psychological ill health of the individual and the cowardice of those who find that clinging to him is their best chance for re-election. Now, I know these are my opinions, but I try to think, what would the Tibetans say about all this? And he had plenty to say about the fascists, the Mussolinis, the Hitlers. And, we could include those in Japan, etc. A long time ago, 80 years ago, he had plenty to say. And a reattempt is being made. And it's a danger to every one of us who loves democracy, which is a hierarchical form of government. So, friends, that's what the background for this focus on emotional obsession. He's not alone, of course. And there are other would-be dictators in various places who are, well, maybe not quite so bad, but maybe some are. It's not the solution. Fascism, Nazism is not the solution. So, let's think of all of us gathered here together.
Were you going to show the meditation?
Why not? I could do that, huh?
I wouldn't want to force you into anything that you didn't want to do.
You probably do, Yeah, it's not as nice as when Tuya does it, but at least this is what we've got, okay? So I'll stick with this. Thank you. So So some 30-something of us are gathered here together. In different countries. And if you wish, you can look at who they are. The list is there. I'm not going to read it all out. But here we are. And in the silence of our presence together, we gather the energy. It's important to think that we are all a part of each other. And that as souls, we merge and we blend. It's like we can touch each other, even be each other. And similarly, touch the men and women of goodwill and even those more serious, persistent workers who are members of the new group of world servers. And we will use the protective formula. You know, we're going to make the cross of divinity, which is forehead, heart, center of the chest, left eye, right eye. And together we visualize ourselves doing that, tracing light with this cross of divinity. As a soul, I work in light, and darkness cannot touch me. I take my stand within the light. I work, and from that point, I never move. And before the entire group as well, the result of all of our individual crosses of divinity, we will have the great cross for the group. Now we will focus the dual light of etheric physical matter, that is, and mind. We're focusing on the mental plane. And we also think of soul light. Recognize soul light. For some, as if above the head. And we bring down the soul light to join the other two lights on the mental plane. We visualize that. And we say, the light is one, and in that light shall we see light. This is the light that turns the darkness into day. Oh, oh, oh. And now the formula. As together we say, visualizing all the time, radiance are we, and power. We stand forever with our hands stretched out, linking the heavens and the earth. The inner world of meaning and the outer world, the subtle world of glamour. We reach into the light and bring it down to meet the need. We reach into the silent place and bring from thence the gift of understanding. Thus with the light we work and turn the darkness into day. So the searchlight goes forth, and that searchlight goes into the subtle world wherein the glamours can be found. We turn that light upon the astral plane. That light will help us to find the glamour and also to dissipate the glamour. In this pause, there comes the invocation of spiritual will. To strengthen our being. And then we say, visualizing the being, with power upon its beam, the light is focused on the goal. Now we think about the glamour we want to detect and dissipate, and we throw the light upon it. The glamour of emotional obsession, afflicting millions who have the emotional conviction that a lie is the truth. Filled with fear, filled with distrust, they are swept by their own emotions. And perhaps I would think by certain obsessing agents, as Master Moria wrote about, we are afflicted by an epidemic of obsession. And this emotional obsession helps people do to all manner of untoward and violent things. We haven't seen the end of the violence yet. A global pandemic and a dictatorship emerging, democracy threatened. Violence felt to be the only method of taking back what was supposedly taken from those who imagined themselves offended. But we will use now the three words of power as we work to see the light penetrating into the glamour and producing its weakening and dissipation. The power of our united light prevents the appearance of the glamour of emotional obsession. The power of our united light negates the quality of the glamour from affecting humanity. The power of our united light destroys the life behind this glamour of emotional obsession. Now we'll have our 5 minutes of silence and work in your own way. Now, we refocus ourselves upon the mental plane, and we realize that some work has been done to prevent people from being swept in an illogical direction by the intensity of their emotions, their repetitive emotions. We withdraw our beam. We turn that beam off and redistribute the lights which made it, the light of matter, the light of mind, the light of the soul. And each one of us then will sound the Om, affirming the work that has been done. Oh. So friends, we will persist with this, and remember to be vigilant about your own glamours, if you can detect them, the things which veil and hide the truth in your life. And so often it has more to do with our accomplishments and the things we think we are really good at. Therein lies the opportunity for glamour to enter. Now, let's see here. I want to find the weekly schedule. Remember, I think we don't have anything tomorrow, but on Sunday, Francis will be presenting the secret teaching of all the ages at 7:00 p.m. GMT. So make sure to attend that if you possibly can, because he really does a good job with presenting the history of the great ageless wisdom. Meanwhile, we'll be back to you, and the new schedule will be prepared, and Tuya and I will do our best to bring things to you in a timely manner. And as I say, if you cannot find the time to be with us at the moment of the broadcast or webinar, they are posted by BL on the, let's see, what have I got here? Yeah.
On
They are
Makara.
on Makara. Yeah. On Makara, and also Harold and Joe will be seeing to the posting on the website
Right,
for
the more,
YouTube.
right, the
YouTube,
more
yeah.
Federation YouTube.
Yeah, okay. Okay, friends. So thank you for your participation. And let's stay alert. These are dangerous times because the mind of humanity, of so many millions, has become untethered to reality, and the emotional nature has become insistent and obsessive. And of course, there's every possibility that the negative forces are making their attack at this time and are affecting many, and especially those who don't know about them and cannot suspect that they are being driven in dangerous directions by subtle negative forces. So let's stay alert and continue our insistence that the will of the people within humanity will prevail and not the will of a few rather mad autocrats. That would be a retrogression to ancient Rome, and we don't want that. Okay, lots of love, many blessings from all of us on the communications team. And we'll be seeing you shortly when the next indication comes from the weekly schedule. Bye for now.